Next person up is Paul.
Okay.
Hmm? We will, I think. Yeah. He was there.
So. Thank you. Rob, which folder was it in? Was it just my documents or something? So very much.
Now we're left with just the hardcore. That's good. You'll be the lot in the bar afterwards then.
I'm glad Rob gave a window for people to leave, because otherwise I would have been quite offended by all those people leaving when it's my turn. Okay, this I was saving this one for a problem solved session, but we didn't have one this time. So I'll try and crowbar it into 3 minutes of this. I imported a structural engineer's model into our model. Oh dear.
Yeah, 2017's open, Paul. It's just down the bottom there. Yeah.
Keep going across. Got you. Thank you.
On the desktop.
Desktop. Where's your desktop link?
That's it. m18 meeting m18. meeting 18.
There it is.
Yeah. To make sure you've got to open it without the work sharing switched on.
Oh yeah, no, you go for that. So the problem was I imported a link into my model. It was a structural engineer's model that I wanted to put into my architectural model, something that happens a lot. But when I imported it this time, I saw something didn't look quite right. The steelwork line weights were completely wrong. And it took us a little while of digging to work out why. That's not what I wanted to see. And when I thought, what's controlling this? For anyone that doesn't know the object styles, is obviously that's where line weights are controlled. They're all down here for all the different categories for the structural stuff. Structural framing is what that is, and the line weights for structural framing cut in section shown as a 6, whereas a roof, for instance, cut line weight should be about a 10. 10 should be bigger than 6, but that's not happening. These roof lines and the structural, something's not quite right. And so I thought it must be something to do with the visibility graphics. The Revit link in here is, sorry, it's not that one. This I've got a view template on, sorry, but this is what I was trying to show, that I want to override the link model with the information I've got in my host model, and so I needed to check something check a box to make sure that was happening. But you come down here and object styles is overridden by host model. That really confused me because I'm thinking that the line weights are controlled by object styles. We saw that before, and object styles here are being controlled by the host model, which means they should all be the same as my line weights, the line weights I'm expecting to see. It wasn't like that. There's an extra layer. Revit, as we know, is a database in its purest sense, and this gives you a little insight into the brain working of Revit. There are definitions under this table for every scale for each of the relative line weights. So that line weight number 6 that I was talking about before has got a millimeter definition for each scale that your view might be at. So I needed to override that somehow, but you can't. At least, correct me if I'm wrong, you can't control a linked model in that way. You can only control down to the level of object styles. And so the way around that is to go into the model itself. That one. In my link folder, it's going to unload it because, oops. Yeah, cancel. Going to unload it from my host model because I've got the central model open. This is the structural model that I was importing, and I need to transfer the project standards from my project into this one. Not all of them, obviously, but just the line weights. Overwrite those. Save it in the same place with today's date on it. And then under the Manage Links tab, I'm going to reload the new one that I've edited. And hey presto, the line weights are as I expected. And that is the tip for getting around unexpected line weights. The only other options that I've thought of for achieving that same effect are trying to control it through visibility graphics, but that means that you'd have to, you're hoping that in the host model there is a millimeter definition that matches the one that I'm trying to present on my model, and trying to map them across, and that's clumsy. Or we could require that everybody uses the same line weights across the world, which isn't going to happen. I think perhaps shall I leave the other one? It was only a simple one. Oh,
could you not just override our widely split it structural size mainly, bring an architect's model to just change the entire architect's model to be a line weight of 1, as you would do in CAD in the old days, change it to grey.
Turn it all into the. I guess that's another way of doing it, but that's still, and that would probably work because most people's one will be small. But you're still relying on the one definition in the linked model being small. If they use thick line weights generally, then you change it to a 1. Of course. It gives you the option to control it as your project standards. It might not.
I think if you override it to a 1, I believe it uses the 1 from your project because you set it rather than below.
That didn't work when we tried it. We were using 2015, so the rules might be different. But when we did try it several ways round, and that it confused me for a while. That when I was setting it to the same cut weight as a wall or a structural framing from my model, they would still look different, which I'd never come across before. I'd never noticed it. Perhaps this was the first one where the line weight definitions were drastically different. And I know other people in the office haven't found a problem with this either. It was just this instance, I believe. The second tip was a very simple one for people who are just starting to use Revit. Is there anybody here that's just starting to use Revit? Yeah, cool. In which case, lost my tree there. That one. So the reason I thought of this one, Rob asked me to put another one together just to go with the other. In our team, we have some people that are just starting to get to grips with Revit. They've been AutoCAD users and they're coming across, and there's lots of features in Revit. They've been on a bit of training courses, but they're still learning how to put all the features into economical practice. And there's lots of detail lines going over the top of CAD plans, going over the top of Revit modeling, and all getting mixed up. And it's a bit of a frustration for me when I go and look at somebody else's model and I try and select something and there's a line in the way, and I try and select something else and there's another line somewhere else, and it's all just scattered around. And detail lines are legitimate for lots of things, but a way of controlling them to make them a little bit less clumsy. I didn't clean out this project quite as well as the other one. Sheets. Simple demonstration. These are 3 matching views. Trying to remember not to use my hotkeys. Guess which ones are there and not. So I'm drawing a site boundary using detail lines. This is the phase 1 of a project, for instance. And if I copy this to another view, hotkeys again. I can do that again and again. But if I want to change the position of that phasing boundary or that site boundary, it just changes once, and that's not good enough when you're using Revit. Revit's a lot better at changing things all at once. Oops. And just like in AutoCAD, people who've been using AutoCAD or similar products will be used to using blocks to control things all over the place, and the same logic can be applied here using groups. Activate view. If I select my site boundary lines and turn them into a group, I can now place I'm just copying, deactivate, activate. I could do the same thing on the other view as well. And now if I want to change something, just like when you use a block, you have to edit the group itself. Now the other one's changed as well, and while I'm there, I could add other things to the group as well. This isn't new for people that have been using. Oops. I can add my block names to it as well, and the more views I've got it on, the more justification there is for using that kind of thing. So please, if you're new to Revit and you're going to be using detail lines because you're working fast or because there's a good reason to, if you put them in a group, you'll find them a lot easier to control, and it'll make everybody happier in the office, and they might buy things for you. And that is me.
Cheers, Paul. Sorry, I'm good to Revit. I'm good to that point, yeah. I'm not as brave as you. I'm not doing it live.
Nothing to do with
nothing
to do with courage. You got one?
Yeah. I'm all Britney Spears up. So I'm just going to conclude. Oh yeah, this happened I think just yesterday. I was in our offices. I was sat next to our tech support guys. Some of the conversation those guys have are quite hilarious sometimes. Some of the problems people phone in with. But one thing that I actually put into my slide deck here just because I thought it was quite interesting was somebody was having real problems when they were putting in doors and windows into their models. It was taking, for some reason the system was hanging quite a lot in their Revit models. And it was a bit of a mystery, and we tried, the tech support guys spent a good part of half a day trying to figure out what it was. And they came across the fact that if you turn off the analysis tools in Revit, all of a sudden that performance leaps back up again. And there wasn't any rhyme nor reason for it whatsoever. But if you do have mysterious performance issues in Revit, then you know that's a good tip for you. Okay, just a very quick one as well. Quality formulas. This isn't a tip so much as a feature that a lot of people don't seem to know about. So many of you will know, all of you should hopefully know how to use the equality constraint. You can change the equality display in Revit. You can turn it to numerical, but quite a lot of people don't seem to know that there's formula options there as well. And if you turn that on and come back to the bottom here, you'll notice that you've got length of segment, number of segments, total number of witness lines, and total length as well. And you can use this to build up a sort of annotational system. So I can put number of segments, I can put number of, and then I can put a suffix after it, and then I can put in total length of each segment. And also the total length as well. And I've also got the ability to override the unit settings in here as well. So I can turn project settings off, put in the millimeters unit settings. Did everyone know that was there? Did anybody not know it was there? Yeah, I think it's one of those things you can easily quite miss. And of course, if you now change the window positions in this example, for instance, it'll now change that text for you as you would expect from the Revit platform. It's number of witness lines, number of gaps. Concatenation, combining text strings. Okay, Revit lacks the ability to concatenate, much to the frustration of many of us. So things like drawing numbering systems, like BS 1192 is a classic example with all the containers and stuff that you have to make into one sheet number. But it could also be done with, it could also be done with product information within families, even stuff we might call out in an architectural example. So who's used Dynamo in here? Who was it who said to me earlier on, I've opened up Dynamo, it scared me, and I closed it back down again? Yeah. This tip is more about showing those people who have opened it up, closed it down because they're scared of it, that actually it's not that scary. Because I can show you how to concatenate two pieces of information, something very simple, and I'll show you, and this is live, there's no cutting out of it. Less than 3 minutes, we've got the full script written in Dynamo. It's not a, it doesn't have to be this huge. When you see Dynamo experts, there's a few of us in the room, you'll often see these huge scripts that scare the bejesus out of everybody. But actually, if you want to do something very simple, you can do it very quickly. So this is obviously the Dynamo platform. So I've got Dynamo open at the moment. Now say I've got, it's only an example, say I've got a door, two parameters in it, one called zone, one called config. Okay, simple as that. Dynamo is running here on top. Okay, now I'm not expecting you to memorize the sort of all the nodes, but you can see here that the listing of these nodes is actually pretty plain English. It's and if you start thinking about it, select model element, which is a node. It's pretty self-explanatory as to what it does. So that allows me to select that door and put it straight into the script, or the definitions we should call it. I now want to grab the parameters out of that particular door. So get parameter value. Again, pretty self-explanatory. I'm no coder yet. I can figure this out pretty quickly. Link those up to, put those elements in there. It asks you below it, what's the parameter name? So I just put in what we call a string. It's just a simple piece of text. And I say the parameter I'm looking for is a parameter called zone. I link that in. Again, string. Again, this is, you can tell it's been done in real time because I make mistakes. But string in there as well, put that in. Link that up. Now these watch nodes are particularly useful. They just allow you to check what you've got so far. So I link that result to there, and then I'll just run that. Actually, the run button's just off the screen there, but I've just clicked on run, and you can see the results of me interrogating that. So now I've got set2 and west, which is the text within those parameters. And then concatenate is a simple node called concat. Add those in, and I put a string in between it to act as a divider, which is just a simple dash. Okay, and then finally, I want to set that. Now I've got my value, I've concatenated together. I want to feed that parameter back in, so I'm going to set parameter by name. Again, if you think about it, they do take a little bit of finding, some of these things, but you know, it's all pretty self-explanatory. The Dynamo forums, for example, are really useful. But just link those up. So that's the value going in. Where do I want to feed that information into? I want to feed it into the mark. Put it in. Bless you. And finally, I just put watch in there. Actually, the watch isn't actually needed. But once I click on run there now, you can see straight away the concatenated value gone straight into that parameter. So dead simple. You know, if I change that parameter in there, I'll just click run again, and the parameter will update. It's really that easy, you know. So don't be scared of it if you haven't used it. That's how I started using Dynamo, simple stuff like that, and then you just build it up. Pardon? I'd put it into a loop, I think, wouldn't it?
No, if you edit the mark, then next time you run it, it'll override whatever you change the mark to.
Yeah. So yeah, we just overwrite exactly. But it's dead simple. That sort of stuff. Just a little, and some of the Dynamo users in the room might not know this. There's and I've forgotten the name of it. I was in my head about 10 seconds ago. There's a developer out in South Africa who's developed a little app for Revit, which allows you to put Dynamo definitions onto buttons. So you can actually, what's it called? Dynamo browser, and it actually allows you to put buttons under the definition. So for example, you could put a button on this. Your users could click on that button, and the concatenate action will happen. You know, without them actually even opening or actually seeing or actually knowing anything about the Dynamo process. Okay, that's an option. Quick blast from the past. Multi-category schedules. So I've showed this tip before. I'll show it one more time, and then we'll all go for a beer, I think. Multi-category schedules are really useful. A lot of people don't know how to use them. So for a good example, piping schedules. If I go in here, I can add in typical stuff that I want: type of mark, the count, and then I'll go and add a parameter, and I'll just go and add it as system number, for example, text, put it under identity data. And because it's a multi-category schedule, I can add it into all those items there: pipe accessories, pipe fittings. So what I can do now is if I go to filter it by system number. I want system number 1. So this is what I'm trying to do here: is get all the pipes, all the fittings, all the accessories that exist within that single system. If I grand total that out, now at the moment I'll end up with a blank schedule. But if I go into my system browser in MEP, for example, I can select all my elements, and just quickly go through and put that system number in. Believe it or not, the system name doesn't work. I've tried that. You have to put your own designation in, but once you've got your own designation, it does work. And then eventually you get your list of parts, if you like, for the whole system, not just for the individual categories within that system. All right, I'll finish on a daft one. I always put this, I've done this one before just because I didn't know it existed and I felt silly afterwards. Hands up if you didn't know that pressing the select and the return key at the same time rotated the windows around in Revit. There's a few people with their gobs open at the moment going, what? So a few people have always said to me, it always annoys me about Revit that I can't choose where the position of the windows are. Yes, you can. Just press the select and the return key and it will rotate them. So it's actually a Windows trick, but it's there. So if that turns out to be the most helpful thing of the night for people, that'll be